Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The desert night was alive with swirling dust as three battered trucks navigated the treacherous, unmarked path. The thundering engines reverberated through the silent landscape, stirring clouds of crimson dust that painted the air. In the leading vehicle, a determined youth in a worn flannel shirt struggled to maintain control over the steering wheel. His fingers rigid and pale on the rough leather, he navigated the truck over the uneven terrain, his every muscle tensed. Grandpa's diary gave precise coordinates. The Carlson mine still has veins they never touched. The second truck honked twice, their signal that everything looked clear behind them. Marcus checked his mirrors. No dust clouds except their own. Good. The last thing they needed was some local rancher calling the cops about trespassers. The barbed wire fence appeared in their headlights, adorned with sun-bleached, no trespassing signs. Marcus pulled to a stop and killed the engine. The sudden silence felt heavy after hours of engine noise. "Wire cutters," Marcus said. Tank handed them over without a word. They'd been planning this for months, pooling their money for equipment, studying old mining maps, waiting for the right moonless night. Marcus climbed out, his brown work boots crunching on the gravel. The metal fence posts had rusted through in places, making quick work of cutting an opening wide enough for the trucks. "Move fast," Marcus called back to the others as he rolled the cut section aside. "We've got maybe 6 hours before sunrise." The trucks rolled through one by one. Marcus made sure to prop the fence back up behind them, threading some wire through to hold it in place. From the road, it would look untouched. He jogged back to his truck where Tank waited with the door open. "Smart thinking with the fence," Tank said as they continued deeper into the property. "Can't be too careful." Marcus navigated around a cluster of Joshua trees. "Prison time for criminal trespass and theft isn't how I want to spend my 20s. The Carlson mine entrance appeared like a black mouth in the hillside. Wooden support beams framed the opening, weathered but still solid-looking. Marcus had done his research. The mine closed in 1952 when the easy gold ran out, but the deeper shafts remained unexplored. Modern equipment and determination could reach what pickaxes and dynamite couldn't. "Kill the lights," Marcus ordered as they approached. "Use the battery-powered gear from here." The convoy went dark. 6 men emerged from the trucks, pulling on hard hats with mounted LED lights. They unloaded the equipment in practiced silence. Portable generators, rock drills, ore carts on collapsible wheels. Camping supplies for a multi-day expedition. "Remember the plan," Marcus addressed the group, his breath visible in the cold desert night. "We work in shifts. 2 drilling, 2 hauling, 2 keeping watch. No cell phones, they could ping the towers. No fires visible from outside. We're ghosts until we're gone." The tunnel swallowed them whole. Their LED lights carved out circles of visibility in the absolute darkness. The air tasted of minerals and age. Marcus led the way, consulting laminated copies of his grandfather's hand-drawn maps. "First shaft should be about 200 feet in," he said, voice echoing off the rough walls. Old mining cart tracks ran along the floor, twisted and broken in places from decades of earth movement. They had to carry their equipment over several cave-ins where the ceiling had given way. Each time, Marcus held his breath until they passed safely through. The main tunnel branched into 3 directions. Marcus checked his map and pointed left. "This way." Grandfather marked this shaft as promising but too dangerous. That was 70 years ago. We've got better equipment now. They set up a base camp at the tunnel intersection. Sleeping bags, water supplies, a small gas camping stove. Marcus assigned the first watch schedule while the others began assembling the drilling equipment. "I'll take the first drilling shift," Marcus announced, pulling on thick canvas gloves. "Tank, you're with me. The rest of you start setting up the ore carts and pulley system." The rock drill roared to life, its carbide bit chewing into the tunnel wall. Marcus had studied geology videos for months, learning to identify quartz veins that often carried gold. The drill bit sent up showers of rock chips and dust. Even through his safety glasses and dust mask, the particles stung his eyes. Hours passed in a blur of noise and sweat. They rotated shifts every 2 hours to prevent exhaustion. Marcus refused to rest during his off time, instead examining every chunk of ore they pulled out, looking for that telltale glitter. "Nothing yet," reported Chen, wiping sweat from his forehead with his orange safety vest. Just granite and some copper traces. Keep going, Marcus urged. The vein has to be here. By the 4th hour, doubt crept in. They'd drilled test holes every few feet along a 100-foot stretch of tunnel. The generator chugged steadily, its exhaust ventilated toward the mine entrance through flexible ducting they'd installed. Everything ran smoothly, but they had no gold to show for it. Maybe we should try the other tunnel, suggested Rodriguez, the youngest of their group at 22. His green hard hat sat crooked on his head. Not yet. Marcus studied the rock wall, running his gloved hand over its surface. Something felt different about this section, a slight change in texture, a different sound when he tapped it with his rock hammer. One more test hole, right here. The drill bit into the wall. This time, instead of the usual gray granite, reddish-brown rock emerged. Marcus's pulse quickened. Iron oxide often accompanied gold deposits. The drill pushed deeper, and suddenly the bit broke through into a hollow space. Stop! Marcus yanked the drill back. He peered into the hole with his headlamp. Beyond the opening, something glinted. His hands shook as he grabbed a cold chisel and hammer, carefully widening the hole. What is it? Tank crowded close, trying to see. Marcus reached through the opening, his fingers closing around a chunk of ore. He pulled it out and held it under the LED lights. Veins of pure gold ran through the quartz like frozen lightning. We found it, he whispered. Then louder, we found it. The tunnel erupted in celebration. 6 grown men jumped and hollered like kids, slapping backs and pumping fists. Marcus clutched the ore sample, feeling the weight of it, the reality of actual gold in his hands. How much is in there? Chen asked, practically vibrating with excitement. Only one way to find out. Marcus grabbed a sledgehammer. Stand back. He swung hard, enlarging the opening with each blow. The hollow space beyond grew visible, a natural chamber in the rock where geological forces had concentrated the gold-bearing ore. Their lights revealed yellow metal gleaming everywhere, embedded in the chamber walls like stars in the night sky. There must be thousands of ounces in there, Tank breathed. Tens of thousands, Marcus corrected. Maybe more. We need to work fast. Start bagging everything we can reach. They attacked the chamber with renewed energy. Ore samples went into heavy canvas bags, each man working to exhaustion. Marcus kept mental calculations. At current gold prices, even a conservative estimate put them at several $1 million. Split 6 ways, it meant financial freedom for all of them. The work consumed them. Nobody noticed the subtle tremor that ran through the tunnel. Nobody heard the faint grinding sound from deeper in the mine. Marcus reached far into the chamber, prying loose a particularly rich specimen when the world exploded. The roar came first, a sound like the earth itself screaming. The tunnel ceiling crashed down in a cascade of multi-ton boulders. Marcus felt himself thrown backward, rocks pelting his body. Dust filled the air so thick he couldn't see his own hands. Then silence. Absolute, terrifying silence. Marcus coughed, spitting out dirt. His headlamp had survived, showing a wall of rubble where the tunnel entrance used to be. He stumbled to his feet, ribs aching, and surveyed the damage. The cave-in had sealed them into a space maybe 30 feet long. The gold chamber remained accessible, but the way out was gone. Tank? His voice came out as a croak. Chen? Anyone? No response. Marcus searched frantically, pulling at rocks until his gloves tore and his hands bled. He found Tank first, pinned beneath a boulder too large to move. No pulse. Chen lay nearby, his orange vest visible beneath the rubble. Also gone. One by one, Marcus found them all. The cave-in had taken every member of his crew except him. He stood alone in the tomb they'd created, surrounded by fortune and gold and the bodies of his friends. The headlamp beam shook as his whole body trembled. This wasn't supposed to happen. They'd been careful, taken precautions. But the mountain had claimed them anyway, just as it had probably claimed miners decades before. Marcus forced himself to think. Panic would kill him as surely as the rocks had killed the others. He had water. They'd staged supplies throughout the tunnel. Food, too. The air felt stale but breathable. The cave-in might have left gaps for ventilation. He spent the next hours attempting to dig out. The rocks ranged from fist-sized to boulders weighing tons. Without heavy equipment, moving the larger ones proved impossible. Marcus focused on the smaller debris, clearing what he could, searching for any possible exit. By the time exhaustion forced him to stop, he'd barely made a dent. His hands throbbed, torn and bleeding despite the work gloves. He slumped against the tunnel wall and took inventory. 3 gallons of water, energy bars and dried food for maybe a week if rationed, 1 functioning headlamp plus spare batteries. The camping stove, though using it, would eat oxygen. Think, he muttered to himself. There has to be another way. The gold chamber. He'd only glimpsed its depths before the cave-in. Maybe it led somewhere. Marcus crawled through the opening, his headlamp revealing more than just ore veins. The chamber extended back into darkness, naturally formed but oddly regular, like water had carved it over millennia. He pushed deeper, having to squeeze through a narrow section that scraped his blue flannel shirt. The passage opened up again beyond, and Marcus found himself in a tunnel different from anything in the mine. The walls were smooth, almost polished. His light reflected off them in strange ways. What the hell? The tunnel sloped downward at a gentle angle. Marcus followed it, partly from curiosity, but mostly from desperation. Any path was better than sitting next to his dead friends waiting to die. The temperature rose as he descended, sweat soaking through his shirt. After what felt like an hour of walking, the tunnel ended at a metal door. Not old mining equipment, this looked modern, high-tech even, seamless steel with no visible handle or lock. Marcus pushed against it, and to his surprise, it swung open silently. The room beyond defied explanation. White walls curved up to form a domed ceiling. Panels of unknown material glowed with soft blue light. In the center sat a chair that looked more like modern art than furniture, all sweeping curves and translucent surfaces. "Hello?" Marcus called out. His voice didn't echo. The room seemed to swallow sound. No answer. He stepped inside, and the door sealed behind him with a soft hiss. Marcus spun around, pushing at the now seamless wall. No give at all. His heart hammered as claustrophobia set in. Trapped again, but in a very different kind of tomb. The chair drew his attention. Up close, he could see circuitry running through its transparent frame like veins. A headrest curved up from the back, positioned to cradle someone's skull. The whole thing hummed with barely perceptible energy. Having no other options, Marcus sat down. The change hit instantly. Energy coursed through his body like liquid electricity. His vision went white, then exploded into impossible colors. Every nerve fired at once, sending signals his brain couldn't interpret. Marcus tried to scream but couldn't tell if any sound emerged. The sensation focused, concentrating in specific areas. His chest felt like it was expanding and contracting simultaneously. His hips ached as if bones were shifting. Hair follicles all over his body tingled and burned. The pain peaked, held for an eternal moment, then vanished as suddenly as it had come. Marcus gasped, drawing in air that tasted different somehow. He looked down and froze. Beneath his blue flannel shirt, his chest pushed out in 2 distinct mounds. His hands flew to them, confirming the impossible. Breasts. He had breasts. No, no, no. The voice that emerged was higher, softer, female. Marcus jumped up from the chair, stumbling as his center of gravity had shifted. His jeans hung loose on narrower hips, but felt tight across a rounder backside. Trembling fingers unbuttoned the flannel shirt, revealing a woman's torso, smooth skin, narrow waist, and breasts that defied any attempt at denial. The room offered no mirrors, but the polished walls showed enough. A woman's face stared back, his features but softened, feminized. Higher cheekbones, fuller lips, larger eyes. His hair, still short but somehow thicker, had lightened from dark brown to rich auburn that caught the blue light. This isn't possible. The woman's voice came from his throat. Her throat. Marcus touched her face, watching the reflection copy every movement. Real. Completely, impossibly real. The door that had sealed behind her opened again. Having no choice, Marcus stumbled through it, back into the tunnel. Each step felt wrong, wider hips forcing a different gait, breasts moving despite the flannel shirt, smaller feet sliding in boots, now too large. The journey back up seemed longer. Marcus had to stop frequently, adjusting to the foreign body. Her body. The pronouns felt wrong but accurate. Nothing about her current form could be called male. The chair, whatever technology it contained, had transformed her completely. She reached the gold chamber and squeezed through the opening, immediately confronted by the cave-in and its grim contents. Tank's body lay where she'd left it. Him, where he'd left it. But Marcus was gone, replaced by this auburn-haired woman in his clothes. Focus, she told herself, disturbed by the feminine voice. Survive first, freak out later. The situation hadn't changed, still trapped, still alone, still probably going to die, but now in a body that made no sense. Marcus sat on a rock and tried to process what had happened. Advanced technology hidden beneath an old mine. A transformation that violated every law of biology she knew. He knew. The pronouns tangled in her mind. She examined her new form more carefully. Everything appeared completely female, fully functional as far as she could tell, without getting too invasive. The auburn hair felt natural, growing from her scalp rather than being a wig. Her skin was softer, body hair finer and sparser. Even her hands looked different, smaller, more delicate, though still bearing the cuts and bruises from digging. "Why?" she asked the empty tunnel. "What's the point of changing me into this?" No answer came. Marcus stood and resumed the futile task of trying to dig out. The work went slower with less upper body strength. She had to rest more frequently, muscles fatiguing faster, but sitting still meant thinking, and thinking led to panic about the impossible situation. Hours blended together. Marcus developed a routine: dig until exhausted, rest, eat a small portion of food, dig again. She avoided looking at the bodies of her friends, focusing only on moving rocks. The feminine body became just another obstacle to work around, like the massive boulders. On what might have been the second day, time blurred without sunlight, Marcus noticed something odd. A slight breeze touched her face while digging near the top of the cave-in. Airflow meant a gap somewhere. She attacked that section with renewed energy, clearing smaller rocks to follow the air current. The gap appeared just large enough to squeeze through if she could clear a bit more debris. Marcus worked frantically, ignoring her bleeding hands and aching muscles. Freedom lay just beyond this barrier. She pushed through head first, the rough rocks scraping her skin and catching her auburn hair. The flannel shirt tore as she wiggled forward. For a terrifying moment, her wider hips stuck, but desperation gave her the strength to force through. Marcus tumbled out the other side, landing hard on the mine floor. She lay there gasping, hardly believing she'd made it. The main tunnel stretched ahead, leading to the entrance and escape. But first, she looked back at the cave-in. Her friends remained buried behind tons of rock. Going for help meant admitting to trespassing, theft, and involvement in their deaths, but leaving them seemed wrong too. Marcus made a decision. She'd anonymously report the location once safe. Let authorities recover the bodies without knowing who'd caused the tragedy. The walk to the entrance felt surreal. Same tunnel she'd entered as a man, now navigating as a woman. Her oversized boots flopped with each step. The torn flannel shirt barely held together. She looked like she'd been through hell, which wasn't far from the truth. Sunlight blazed at the tunnel mouth. Marcus squinted, eyes watering after days in darkness. The trucks sat where they'd left them, covered in a layer of dust. She found the keys in her pocket. The jeans had stayed on despite the size difference. The drive back to town loomed as another challenge. Show up as a woman in Marcus's clothes, driving his truck? That would raise questions she couldn't answer, but staying meant dying in the desert. Marcus climbed into the cab and adjusted the seat forward to reach the pedals with her shorter legs. The truck started on the second try. She navigated carefully back through the cut fence, taking time to wire it closed again. No need to make the trespass obvious. The dirt road seemed longer in daylight, each bump reminding her of the changed body. Marcus pulled into a gas station at the edge of town, parking far from other vehicles. She needed a plan. Money wasn't an issue. Her wallet contained cash and cards, but identification showed a male face and name that no longer matched reality. "One thing at a time," she muttered, disturbed again by the feminine voice. The gas station sold basic clothing. Marcus bought jeans and a t-shirt in smaller sizes, along with undergarments she tried not to think too hard about. The teenage cashier barely glanced up from his phone during the transaction. She changed in the restroom, horrified and fascinated by the reflection in the mirror. The auburn hair fell past her shoulders despite being relatively short, framing an undeniably pretty face. The new clothes fit properly, which somehow made the transformation feel more real and permanent. Marcus drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, paying cash for a room. The desk clerk asked for ID, but accepted an excuse about losing her purse while hiking. Cash talked louder than rules in places like this. Safe behind a locked door, Marcus finally allowed herself to break down. She sobbed for her dead friends, for the treasure that had cost so much, for the body that made no sense. The tears felt different, came easier in this form. Everything felt different. When the crying stopped, she assessed the situation rationally. The transformation appeared permanent. The chair hadn't offered any reverse option. Living as a woman meant creating a new identity, explaining her appearance, building a life from scratch. The gold would help with that, if she could access it without connecting to Marcus's disappearance. But first, the bodies. Marcus found a payphone, increasingly rare but perfect for anonymous tips. She called the sheriff's department and reported a cave-in at the Carlson mine, mentioning seeing vehicles there days ago. The dispatcher took the information, promising to send search and rescue. That duty handled, Marcus focused on immediate survival. She needed documentation that matched her new appearance. The kind of people who provided such things operated in the shadows of every major city. Her emergency fund would cover the costs. She drove through the night, putting distance between herself and the mine. The radio played quietly, filling the silence. Marcus stopped at another gas station to buy hair dye, choosing a different shade of auburn to alter her appearance slightly. Small changes that might help avoid connection to whatever investigation followed. Los Angeles sprawled before her as dawn broke. Millions of people, endless opportunities to disappear and reinvent. Marcus had contacts there from less legal ventures in college. People who knew people who could make problems go away for the right price. The first meeting went poorly. Her contact, a guy named Dimitri who operated out of a dry cleaning shop, didn't recognize the auburn-haired woman asking for Marcus's usual arrangements. Only knowledge of past dealings convinced him to help. "You need the full package," Dimitri said, eyeing her skeptically. "Birth certificate, social security, driver's license, passport. Not cheap. I can pay." Marcus had cash reserves hidden in various places, paranoid preparation that now proved valuable. 3 weeks, maybe 2 if you pay express rate. Marcus agreed. Dimitri took photos and fingerprints, asking for basic information. She chose the name Madison, keeping the same initials. Madison Taylor, generic enough to blend in, close enough to remember. Birth date stayed the same, just changing the gender marker. While waiting for documents, Marcus rented a small apartment in a building that didn't ask questions. She learned the basics of living as a woman through trial and error, YouTube videos, and sheer necessity. Makeup remained a mystery, but clean skin and neat hair went far enough. The bodies were found after 5 days. News reports called it a tragic accident, experienced minors who'd taken one risk too many. Marcus watched the coverage in her tiny apartment, guilt eating at her. The families deserved to know what really happened, but telling them meant revealing the impossible. Her new documents arrived on schedule. Madison Taylor officially existed, complete with a fabricated history Dimitri's people had inserted into various databases. The transformation from Marcus to Madison was complete on paper, matching the physical reality she still struggled to accept. Accessing the gold proved trickier. Marcus had hidden caches of ore during the dig, paranoid about claim jumpers. Those deposits remained untouched in various locations. Madison retrieved them carefully over several weeks, never taking too much at once. Gold buyers who didn't ask questions existed if you knew where to look. The money accumulated slowly, not the millions they'd dreamed of, but enough to start over comfortably. Madison invested carefully, building a legitimate financial foundation. The mine itself remained sealed, its golden chamber holding both treasure and tragedy. Months passed. Madison found work at an accounting firm, her skills translating despite the body change. Coworkers knew her as quiet but competent, someone who kept to herself but delivered quality work. The auburn-haired woman in professional blazers bore little resemblance to the desperate miner who'd escaped a cave-in. She never dated, couldn't imagine explaining her past to anyone. Friends remained surface-level acquaintances. Madison Taylor existed as a ghost wearing flesh, haunted by memories of being Marcus and the price paid for gold. Sometimes she researched the technology that had transformed her. Nothing matched that chair, those glowing panels, the impossibility of instantaneous biological change. Whatever existed beneath the Carlson mine remained beyond current human understanding. Madison chose not to investigate further. Some knowledge came too expensive. A year after the cave-in, she visited the cemetery where Tank was buried. The others had been cremated, but Tank's family opted for traditional burial. Madison stood at the grave in a black dress and sunglasses, anonymous among other mourners visiting different plots. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the headstone. "The gold wasn't worth it. Nothing was worth this." Wind rustled her auburn hair, now grown to shoulder blade length. Madison placed a small bouquet and walked away, heels clicking on the cemetery path. The woman who'd been Marcus had learned to navigate the world in her new form, building a life that looked normal from the outside. But late at night, in the privacy of her apartment, Madison remembered. The weight of gold in her hands, the roar of the cave-in, the electric sensation of transformation, the friends who'd paid the ultimate price for greed. She donated anonymously to mining safety organizations. Percentages of gold profits transformed into programs that might prevent future tragedies. It didn't balance the scales, couldn't bring anyone back, but it was something. Madison Taylor continued existing, working, living a quiet life funded by blood gold. The auburn-haired woman who'd once been a man named Marcus carried her secrets silently. The Carlson mine kept its deeper mysteries, that impossible technology buried beneath traditional tunnels. Some transformations couldn't be undone. Some prices couldn't be refunded. Madison had learned both truths in the hardest way possible. She survived and even thrived by some measures. But on quiet nights, she mourned the life lost along with those who died for glittering metal in dark places. The gold had made her rich in ways Marcus never imagined. Rich in grief, in secrets, in the strange experience of living in skin that fit perfectly, yet felt foreign. Madison adjusted her blazer in the office mirror each morning, auburn hair neat and professional, and faced another day as the woman she'd inexplicably become. The mine remained closed, its entrance sealed by authorities after recovering the bodies. Nobody else would stumble upon that strange chamber, that impossible chair. Madison held the only evidence of what lay deeper than gold, written in every cell of her transformed body. She lived with that knowledge, that burden, that permanent reminder of how greed could change everything in ways never anticipated. The woman in the mirror stayed constant. Auburn hair, feminine features, a life built on tragedy and impossibility. Madison Taylor existed because Marcus had reached too deep, dug too greedily, and found more than treasure in the darkness. She carried that truth forward, one day at a time, in a body that defied explanation but demanded acceptance. The story ended not with death in a mine shaft, but with life in a form never chosen. Madison made peace with that reality gradually, incompletely, but sufficiently to continue. The gold funded her existence. The transformation defined it. The memories drove her to be better than the man who'd led friends to their doom for shiny metal. In that way, perhaps, something valuable had been extracted from the Carlson mine after all. Not the fortune Marcus sought, but the hard-won wisdom Madison carried. Some prices were too high, some changes couldn't be reversed. Some women were born in the strangest ways, deep underground where impossible technology waited for the greedy and desperate. Madison Taylor lived with all of that, auburn hair catching the light as she moved through a world that never knew the full truth. The woman who'd been Marcus, the sole survivor of the Carlson mine disaster, the living proof that some treasures should remain buried and some transformations lasted forever. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.